Here are 10 things that have changed in the Philippines in the past 10 years. I arrived in the Philippines 10 years ago. Here are the 10 things that I noticed changing over time here. Let me know if you agree with these 10 statements. 1. Much more plastic. 10 years ago, most soft drinks were served in glass bottles. Now, it's almost all plastic. 2. Much less street walkers. I guess it's all transferred online, as they no longer need to walk the streets. They simply go on their phones, extract money from you that way, and they simply go on their phones, extract money from you that way, and now they don't even have to physically be with you. 3. Many more tourists. 10 years ago, I went to El Nido, and I was a bit of a novelty as a white guy, and locals were curious to meet me. Today, I'd blend right in, and nobody would look at me twice. 4. Colorism is much less prevalent. 10 years ago, it was common to see job listings outside Shakey's, 7-Eleven, etc. that will list fair complexion as one of the requirements. I never see that anymore. Number 5. Koreans have taken over Americans as the cultural icons and sex symbols. Yes, Koreans are of course the top of the picking order for any Filipina. Yes, definitely due to social media, influence from television, music, and pop culture, and of course, the rise in South Korea in general. 6. Much more commercialized. Even in places like Makati, there were only a few areas that were really commercialized, and the rest were just mom and pop shops of independent locals doing their own thing. A lot of this has died off, and chain stores, condo malls have penetrated a lot more of the market. Yes, we know this because we see the amount of oversupply of condominiums, specifically in Manila and Cebu region. 7. Traffic. Surprisingly, hasn't got much worse. I expected it to get much worse. 8. Cell phone addiction. 10 years ago, people had cell phones but couldn't afford load. Nowadays, everyone is constantly on their phones. You used to see a lot of things like people playing chess in the street, which you never see anymore. One thing to note regarding cell phones, yes, load is much more accessible because simp men across the world send these women money. They ask 10 men for only $1, spend $1 on load, and keep 9. Just an example. You can do the math yourself. Also, big corporations like Facebook are offering free use of the services unlimited packages, meaning you can still access Facebook without any data. Sure, you may not be able to use all of its features like live streaming or downloading some videos or even watching some videos, but it's still good enough for them to be on it nonstop all day, every day. 9. Exotic pets. 10 years ago, monkeys were a fairly common pet but have now either been cracked down on by the government or gone out of fashion. One of the flip sides, purebred dogs have become much more common and fashionable. 10. I got older. My tolerance and curiosity have probably gone down, and my expectations probably gone up. Those are 10 things that I've seen change in the Philippines over the past 10 years. You may have noticed some things that are contradictory to what I normally say. That is because this is not my 10 things. This is for someone on Reddit. I agree with several of these things, although traffic, I believe, has gone up significantly depending on which region you live in. I was curious to see what others think has changed in the past 10 years. Star Shatter says, 10 years ago, once out of Mandawi going north it was okay. Now it's traffic until Gaisano, Liloan, with other huge malls, Bay Mall opening soon. The back way, as I call it, still doesn't have 2 lanes in each direction, has promoted past the Kansaga Bay Bridge. I don't know those locations. I assume there's somewhere in the Philippines that is popular. You get what says, I came first in 2012. I would add, much more expensive now, hotels and cigarettes. More fat people thanks to junk food. Pretty girls don't need dating websites. They get hundreds of messages on Instagram. That is one thing I've never covered on this channel. The actual pretty women, the women that we all dream of, it's nowhere near on a dating site. They're all on Instagram. They do not need to do anything. These women who are in their 20s that are actually attractive, that actually have their own income, that don't need an old man or his money, are on Instagram. These are the women that the Chads go after. Women that you and I have zero access to unless we are paying for it, in which case they are not those women. Those women do not need your money. Entity 21 says, past 10 years of Camigan Island, electricity is worse, traffic is worse, noise is worse, corruption is worse, pollution is worse, water situation is worse, fresh food situation is worse, same overpriced restaurant foods cooked by people who rely on MSG to cover up the tainted meats and fish. It's abysmal how in 2025 stores in Camigan still cannot figure that shipping fresh frozen foods require refrigerated trucks. Camigan has regressed instead of progressed, but the locals still believe the island is the best in the country. The same locals who both worship and terrified of the LGU, by the way. I see so much progress from other provinces, but here it's the same BS with a new coat of paint. Oh, and by the way, in Camigan, people be punished should they take the wrong boat to the mainland. This includes the stores. I'll think political parties. This is a bit of a rant, but I see Camigan is still there. Iton Piorco says, fewer American stores and restaurants. Back in the 90s, we had A&W and Little Caesars in Angeles City. With online shopping, American apparel or goods no longer have the same appeal. 10 years ago, there were decent steakhouses, but now most places have been converted into Korean restaurants. People tend to drink more energy drinks. Only in the Philippines does energy drink become a day-to-day beverage. Customized and dangerous motorcycle mods started to decrease compared to 10 years ago. I would have to disagree that there are fewer McDonald's, Starbucks, Burger King, Pizza Hut. Like any country, things change. That is obvious, we must admit, but 10 years is a long time that has shown very little progress in the Philippines, I believe. There are still things today that really annoy me on a daily basis. I'm sure no country's perfect, definitely. However, I think it is time that we see the Philippines for what it really is, still a third world country. I am also pleasantly surprised that so many other channels are now speaking about the downsides, the negative sides of the Philippines. I must admit this was not the case over a year ago when I started the Philippines channel, Truths, the Philippines Truth, and the Philippines Facts. I think I've accomplished something here. I can't help but to think that some people watching my videos made their own much more realistic. I can't help but think that I may have even started a trend as I see other channels now only talking negatively. Of course, there are positives to everything, positives and negatives, but I do feel that there's a slight change in people's tone regarding only speaking positively, which was my intention at the start. It's time for our catfish of the day. How do you go from this to this? The best comment is from School NYC, donating $5 to the channel. Thanks. Spanish shares similarities with English, and many locals, particularly younger people, have some degree of English proficiency. You'll likely adjust quickly. Cultural norms in many Latin American countries places a strong emphasis on family and personal independence. It's not common for people to move in together quickly, and families typically respect personal space and boundaries. While it's possible to meet younger women, it's important to approach these relationships with realistic expectations. Transactional relationships exist in many places, so it's okay to understand the dynamics at play. Genuine connections are built on mutual respect and understanding. For deeper insights into cultural dynamics and relationships in various countries, resources like the Philippine Truth Channel can be informative. Approach new experiences with an open mind and be ready for both the rewards and challenges they bring. Here are two more that are tied but are not super thanks or super sticker. Best comment from yesterday's video is from T-Man. All foreigners pay in Southeast Asia in one way or another, no matter young or old, thin, fat, rich, poor. This comment was also tied with another comment. Bert says, most truthful channel for expats in the Philippines. Thanks for watching. God bless.